In this lesson, we will set up our twist system for the primary helpers of our vertebrae. Let's go ahead and start by hiding our horse so it's not a distraction. No need to see it right now. Alright, so our next step is to grab the groups that should be primarily affected by our PT and V objects, the pelvis and thorax, and go ahead and link those groups directly to those objects. So I'll start with the pelvis, go ahead and link to, again, PT and V, and watch this. When we go in and grab our animation control and start to twist that, notice we get the exact twist we need. No matter how we rotate this object, it's going to twist properly. Alright, great. So we'll just go ahead and take care of that for the thorax. Let's go ahead and link the group. Test this out. Great. Alright, so our next step is to set up an expression for the midsection of our vertebrae. So after these are taken care of, I like to move immediately to the center because the surrounding helpers will be affected by the center helper's twist. Now, even before we get to the expression, it's a good idea to check your axis order on your animation controls. The reason why is because you'd want to avoid gimbal lock as much as possible as you twist these objects. If we run into gimbal, that will cause the spine to collapse. So we need to make sure that we choose a suitable axis order to prevent any type of problems that would cause the spine rig to behave in a very awkward way. So looking at this, what I tend to do is make the yaw axis, which in this case is the x-axis, the primary axis that drives the other axes. And then the next step would be to make the pitch axis what drives the very last axis, which would be our twist axis. In this case, it is the Z. So with that being said, we'd want to use an axis order of Z, Y, and X. Now this isn't always the case. You might find that for your needs, another axis order would work best. So it's just a matter of trial and error and testing your rig out, experimenting with animation just to find what would be most stable for your needs. Alright, so with the thorax selected, we can head over to our motion panel. I'll go ahead and scroll down. And we'll want to make sure we're under our rotate list so we can switch our axis order to Z, Y, X. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for our pelvis. Beautiful. Alright, so now when we go in and start to twist this around, again, we can avoid gimbal lock, which will thus give us a very stable vertebrae rig. Alright, so now it's time to work on our expression. So let's go ahead and grab the center helpers group object and head over to our motion panel, scroll up to the top. We'll expand our rotation list, zero Euler. And for this helper, you can see that its twist axis is actually the y-axis. So that's what we want to add our float expression to. So let's go ahead and grab the y-axis, assign the controller, and now we can start to create a set of variables just to make creating the expression go by a lot faster. So I'm going to start with the pelvis. We'll go ahead and name it just that. Choose create, and now we can go ahead and assign a controller. Let's go ahead and scroll down. Here's our global control. We'll expand the outside to get to its children. There's the center of gravity, so let's go ahead and expand the outside of that. And there's the pelvis. So now I'll expand the inside to get to our controllers. And again, we're grabbing the Z-axis. So with that selected, I'll choose OK. That's been assigned. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for our thorax. Choose Create, Assign Controller. It's a good thing that Max remembers what we've assigned as variables, so that makes this process go by much faster. So I'll go ahead and collapse the pelvis. There's the thorax right at the top. I'll expand that to get to its zero-Euler z-axis. All right, now how do we tie this into the expression? Well, what we need to do is average the twist. So what I'll do is type in as follows: pelvis plus thorax divided by 2. And just to make sure that this gets evaluated properly, we can concatenate pelvis and thorax. So let's go ahead and do that, put those in parentheses. So Max will read this half of the expression, and then it will make sure that this result is divided by 2. So we can go ahead and debug this. Everything's working just fine. Now we can go ahead and evaluate and test this out. As we grab our animation control and start to twist it, notice we have the mid-helper twisting just fine. Beautiful. So you can see how stable the rig is. Let's go ahead and add more twisting from the thorax. Great. So that's exactly what we want. All right, so what I'll now do is set these back to 0. And that will finish this lesson. So in the next lesson, we're ready to finish our twist rig. And in the following lesson, we will finish our vertebrae rig by making sure everything is scalable.